This is where the cool podcast intro is supposed to go, but I forgot to finish it. Anyway, here's Scuffed as Fuck.
Friends and neighbors, welcome to the Scuffed as Fuck podcast. The only place where you can ask your friend for some hot coffee and you will all of a sudden get an adult-only rating. I'm your host, the Senate, also known as the Kiba Guru, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Retro Koda.
What up?
What up? So, Koda.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
I don't think I understand the Senate reference.
The Senate, I think primarily for a lot of controversy with video games, has been responsible for pushing video games are evil into the media.
Oh, that's fair.
So that might get lost, but it's okay.
No, 100%. No, that makes total sense. I thought it was like a video game reference to like Mass Effect or something.
No, I think primarily this is like the first example that I can think of when controversy hit the scene. But when Mortal Kombat and Night Trap was kind of getting traction in the media, it was the Senate that kind of there were a lot of hearings around that kind of pushed the violence narrative.
Oh. Yeah, no, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
Huh.
But friends, as you can probably guess, today we are talking about how gaming is inaccurately or accurately portrayed in media. Now, Koda, whenever I saw this pop into our suggested topics, I took this two different ways. I took it first as like, how is the news and how is the general public that don't necessarily interact with video games viewing games?
Okay.
And how are video games being adapted into other forms of media? So I'm kind of coming at this with both angles.
Okay. I want you to know now, everything that I have prepared, throw it out the fucking window.
Oh,
Because
why?
when I looked at it, and I mean, we can honestly do both because it's pretty good to have that side, but also this side. When I thought about it, I was like, how are games accurately portrayed in like TV shows and video, like movies, like
Yeah.
like um, you know, like a lot of TV shows uh will tend to do the button mashing instead of the actual like using the controller properly or even having it plugged in and stuff. So that's where my brain went, was like
Oh,
show
oh, you're talking people actually playing video games in like a sitcom. How is that represented?
Yeah, that's how my brain
I love
that's
this.
how
I
my
think we should
brain
talk
took
about
it.
all three of them.
We should talk about all three of them. You want me to start or you want to start?
Since I have two, let me do one, and then we'll go to you, and then we'll come back to me.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
I have like four or five, so we can easily do that.
Okay.
Because
Well, I mean,
I have some.
I have a bunch in each, but uh,
Right.
in terms of like subject.
In that case, I have two. I have like movies that have and TV that have portrayed it correctly, and movies and TV that have not. So
Okay,
yes, go for it.
this should be interesting. I'll
This is
I'll
not what I was
start.
planning.
No, actually, this is coming together in an interesting way, so I love this. I guess I'll start with adaptations. So,
hmm
how, in your opinion, Coda, in recent years, how do you feel as though video games are being adapted into TV and movies?
I mean, as much as people like to crap on them, I think that they've been doing a better job. Like the Mortal Kombat movie, aside from one character in it who's not in the entire game universe period, was
Yeah,
honestly a really good movie. And the second one, from what I've seen with Urban, I believe it as Johnny Cage,
right.
um, fantastic. Already looks fantastic. Looks true to the series. That just being one iteration of it, but as it's progressed, um, adaptations are becoming better and better. at least in my
Yeah.
eyes.
No, I would agree with that. I think people saw where Sonic was heading, and then
Hmm.
as time went on, they were adapting a little bit more true to what is actually represented in the games. Because like the Ugly Sonic came out, and everyone's like,
Oh
"No,
my
you
god.
gotta change that." Did you say hot?
No, I said, "Oh my god." But also at the same time, did you know that Ugly Sonic was in the, I believe it was in the Chippendale, uh,
Yeah,
live action movie. The Ugly Sonic was.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
god.
that's what I mean.
And
It's like,
what
I think even before that, Detective Pikachu came out,
Mhm.
and that was I thought that movie was really good.
Oh, yeah.
But the realistic designs of everything, I think, was a note against it.
Yeah, I could see that. I think the Pokemon looking as realistic as they did was great, but living in a real life world instead of the sort of a realistic version of what the Pokemon world would look like kind of worked against it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put that. I also think of
Because, like,
like, uh, sorry, finish your thought.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say, because like, if it had taken place in, like, Pallet Town or, any other region, like the Indigo region, it would've been perfectly fine, but because it takes place in, like, a Tokyo-esque city, it just felt kinda out of place for the Pokemon to be there.
Hmm. You think it fell out of place because of that?
In my eyes, it did. I mean, like,
Okay.
it makes sense, but at the same time, it was, like, the realism of the city. If it had been more of the standard Pokemon world, it might have been a little different.
Yeah, that's valid. I also think too about like the 90s Mario movie and
Oh god.
the the 2020s Mario movies and
Mhm.
just the drastic difference between the two.
No, that is a very valid point because, what the fuck was going on with Bowser in
I
or
mean, honestly,
Yoshi?
what were they gonna do? You know what I mean? At that time, Yoshi was CGI, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think that was I think the Mario movie has I'm gonna fact check that actually. I'm pretty sure Yoshi was the first fully CGI that was in the first Mario movie.
That would be interesting if that's the case. I mean, but at the same time, like, I give shit on it, but it's also kind of the same vibe of everything else that was coming out at the time. Like, take a look at the Batman movies that were coming out back then. Like, it had the same kind of feel and vibe to it, even if it was like it was a weirdly darkened version of the Mario world. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but like it felt a lot more grayer in the scenes that I'm picturing than like a Mario movie should.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
that and that was kind of the similar vibe that was going on during the time of like with the Batman movies and everything.
Okay.
So so it's like as much shit as I give it, it was valid for the time, even if it wasn't accurate.
Yeah, I was wrong about Yoshi, by the way.
I, f- you know, it happens.
I
I was
think,
gonna say, was he not like a robotic?
yeah, he was a highly advanced animatronic.
Ooh, Five Nights at Freddy's before Five Nights at Freddy's.
The Mario movie was a first on something. Uh, I'm looking it up.
The first Nintendo movie to be made.
It was the very first live action feature film adapted from a video game. I knew it was the first of something.
And then we ended up getting shitty takes like the Mortal Kombat movie from the 90s.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the drastic difference between the two and like how much more. Now, I will say in the 90s, I think Super Mario World had come out before that movie did. And that was all the source
Mhm.
material. Nowadays we have I mean, so much. There's so much content with Super Mario. It's not even funny.
I mean, the first one takes place in basically the Super Mario Bros. World, and then the second one I know involves stuff from Galaxy.
Hmm.
It deals with Bowser Jr. Like it even has Star Fox. Like there's spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it. I haven't watched it, but I know like
Yeah, me neither.
Star Fox being in there, like there's so much adapted source material. It makes it such a better quality.
Yeah. And that opens the door for the Nintendo Cinematic Universe, of course.
The NCU.
Honestly, I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they're testing the waters. I think it would be so cool if this were foreshadowing for a Smash Bros. Movie.
All I'm saying is that if we get a Smash Bros. Movie, we better get a Luigi's a Mansion movie.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Luigi's Mansion or like a solo movie with I don't know. We've had so many Pokemon movies, mostly animated, but like, we've got the Mario movies coming out. If they open up the door for Star Fox, then we could also end up getting stuff like it bringing in Waluigi and Wario.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I would love that. The last thing I'll
Luigi's
say
Mansion
about
looks really pretty good.
like adaptations is as more and more time has passed, I think like I look at examples like the Last of Us show or the Fallout show. Those are very well done and they're very
Oh yeah.
accurate to the source material. Um, I also think there's movies that kind of combine like the idea or the entire complex of video games. Like I think
Mhm.
of movies like Free Guy or like Wreck It Ralph, where there's a bunch of them coming together to make a silly movie.
Right.
That one's interesting because like some of them they're all represented how they would be, but not in the context that they would exist in, you know? And that's kind of
hmm
interesting.
Ready Player One's also a really good, like, a representation of video game in general, but not necessarily an accurate one.
Yeah, that's
Um,
a good one.
I love the book. I read the book before I ever got to see the movie. The movie has so much of the source material in it. It's really good. I love it. It also like it's true to the idea of like speedrunners where and people who like go through the code to find secrets and stuff or like what is it called?
Data miners.
Um data miners. Like as much as we give shit on them, like it is kind of an accurate portrayal of people like literally diving deep into the code to find all of these secrets and all this stuff in it. And I love the movie. It's a very good representation of like um a video game world, even if
Yeah.
not necessarily the idea of everyone playing one single game is feasible. Because you're always going to end up having people who want to play sports games or want to play racers, and they're not going to want to play a game that is everything in one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally valid. To put a button on all that, I think we're heading in a really good direction with adaptations these days. So
hmm
I can't wait for the Legend of Zelda movie that's allegedly coming out and it's gonna be live action.
That was the one I couldn't think of. I literally I was like Waluigi and Wario. Those were the names that came to brain, and I was like, no, because I almost said Fire Emblem as well, and I was like, that's not right.
Yeah. And that's the thing,
Um,
if they're setting up this universe and that one's gonna be live action, I don't know.
I don't know, man. Makes me wonder if they're gonna make a Kingdom Hearts movie.
Ugh.
Come on. For those of you for those of you with no context, after we recorded the episode with Caleb and we did our little Jeopardy, this man was playing a game with some of his friends and made a bet and lost and has been having to stream Kingdom Hearts uh the past couple of days. How are you feeling
Yeah.
about it, by the way?
You know what? I'll say it. I like it. It's a fun game.
See, it's not as shit as you thought.
There's still a lot of shitty elements though.
There's still a lot of shitty elements. If I were to make a drinking game out of every time I've heard you sigh during a stream, I think I would be in the hospital right now with alcohol poisoning.
Well, there's just so much that they try to jam into that I'm like, "What the hell?"
Well, I
Like,
mean,
you just gotta settle. You just gotta settle on a
the
couple things.
yeah, but the first game was also them trying to get, like, their foot off the ground. They were literally trying to cram as much. It's like a pilot episode, of a TV show. You're trying to cram as much shit into it as possible to make sure that people, like, it gets the ball rolling, and then afterwards, you can kinda space it out and add more details and everything. So, like, as much as they threw at the wall to see what stuck, it does end up coming together pretty nicely, I will say.
Listen, the demographic of Disney adults and weeaboos coming together, that series was destined to succeed, whether or not they implemented 17 million different mechanics.
It gets better as the time goes on. They switch out the special thingies that you can do with some of the characters for, actual rides from the Disney, parks. So,
Oh, well, I guess I'll
I
see
actually
what's to come.
Mhm. You won't get there until you get to, like, Kingdom Hearts 3, but
Oh, well, then never mind.
I mean, listen, Kingdom Hearts 4 got announced a week ago, so you got time.
Ugh, okay.
Um, Sorry, that was a long tangent on it.
No, that's
I
okay.
would lo I would love for Kingdom Hearts to be a movie, though. I think it would do well.
I think it
Um,
might also.
right. So, where would you like me to start? I guess since we talked about, the improving image of video games and like movies and stuff, the adaptations things. Do you want me to go with accurate portrayals or inaccurate portrayals?
I think inaccurate will be really funny, so start with accurate.
Start with accurate. All right.
Yeah.
So, in movies and TV shows, as years have gone on, we've had a lot of better views of video games in them. I mean, some even are, they date back to the early 90s, even, which is kind of crazy considering you had the Mario movie
Huh?
from the 90s, or 80s, whatever that was. But, um, you know, you mentioned Free Guy, or yeah, Free Guy.
Mhm.
I almost called it Guy Free. That's totally wrong. Uh,
Guy Fieri.
Guy Fieri. But so in that movie, despite a lot of its inaccuracies in the video gaming world, it does a really good job of like showing NPC movement and dialogue and stuff, as well as the like overall chaos of an MMO or a online game such as like GTA Online. Like
Mhm.
people are, running around, throwing grenades, shooting people, yada yada yada. Like it's very hectic and chaotic, which is kind of similar to a GTA Online game. But you also have the NPCs. They have a lot of them have a set like travel path, or they're constantly doing the same actions over and over in that movie. You'll see it a lot with some of the NPCs, as well as they do show a little bit of like repeating dialogue. You interact with them so often, then you start getting the same lines. And I think that's kind of cool that they implemented that because Ryan Reynolds is also very much a gamer. So
Yeah.
having that little click in was kind of nice for that movie. Um, I found this one and I thought you would enjoy it the most because I know you're a big Mario fan. Did you ever watch The Sopranos?
No.
So, I don't remember what season it was, but one of the seasons of The Sopranos, uh, Tony and AJ are playing Mario Kart 64 in one of the scenes, and it's really cool to see because it fit the vibes of that era so perfectly. Not only were they holding the controllers correctly, but AJ is also seen using a proper drift mechanic in it. Um,
Okay.
you can you can see that Tony actually is like screen cheating, like he's looking over at AJ's side of the screen and and like cheating in a sense to try and get the upper hand. Let me see if I can find an actual photo or a little clip of this for you real quick.
AJ was
Um,
screen peeking.
Tony was screen peeking.
Oh, my bad.
Tony is the yeah. Let's see. Sopranos. Uh, Mario Kart. This is yeah. It's a little minute 30 clip. Um, I'll just here. We can just do it this way. Ignore all of my screens. I'm gonna screen share this, and you're gonna see all of my little tabs.
Okay.
Pay no attention. Pay no attention to the tabs in the upper corner.
Yeah, okay.
So, for those of you who are listening, um, this whole scene is literally just Tony walking into the house. AJ is playing Mario Kart, and Tony decides to sit next to him and start playing uh, with him. And they actually have the proper they have the proper mechanics and everything.
Is he holding that with one hand?
He is, but
Mm.
I mean, a lot of people who played it. I mean, you might not have played it correctly with one hand, but you still played it.
How can you uh don't you have to hit the A button to accelerate?
Yeah, he was hitting the A button in that.
I don't know about that.
He was.
Tony Soprano's a fake gamer.
I mean, he's just trying to get along with his son, so he
I
could
know, I
probably be
know.
a fake gamer. Um,
That's
but
valid.
it's a really cool depiction of it. They have the actual proper sounds on it. A lot of different like it's a really cool portrayal of it. You
Yeah.
also had stuff like South Park. South Park had an episode, as surprising as that might sound, it was called Make Love, Not Warcraft.
I this episode, the only memory of this episode I have is when they're all morbidly obese in Cartman's basement, and
Yep.
his mom comes down with the like basin so he can crap in it. Such a stupid episode, but I love it.
Such a stupid episode, but throughout it, they use proper uh, terminology that would have been used playing WoW. They actually have real footage in the episode of what would have been the 2006 interface of the Blizzard launcher, also the game itself.
Mhm.
Um, they also had an experience of the players getting griefed from higher level characters. So like you had the full WoW experience there. And it's really it's kind of crazy that a show known about making poop jokes and um being very vulgar had like a full episode dedicated to just them playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I think, by the time that episode came out, though, I think they were starting to cross the threshold of being more topical. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, speaking of topical,
Yeah.
uh, let's move on to your topic because those are the
Oh, that was
three
my
that I
segue?
had. Yeah, that was your
That's
segue.
my bad. Okay.
Sorry, this is your
Yeah.
segue.
Yeah, so this was more, I don't know. I think sometimes you hear like media and you think of the news, the actual news media. So
Hmm.
that is where this second like train of thought went for me. And it made me think about whenever video games started to really hit the scene in terms of people actually looking at them being violent or having adult content. I think that was a piece of it early on, but it wasn't as prevalent until like the early 90s. There were
Yeah.
two games that really sparked this. It was Mortal Kombat, big surprise, and
Right.
a Sega CD game called Night Trap, where you it's one of those games where
Oh.
you look at cameras and
Oh yeah.
it's like the slumber party and these like burglars break into their house and people are undressing, people are like in the shower, and
Hmm.
people were like, "What the hell is this?" Because nothing like that has ever really come out into the mainstream. I think there were
Even
there
to this
were
day.
um there were pornographic Atari games, so I don't know like
I
how
mean, there
well.
was the there was the cowboy one. I don't know the name of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
There was
It won't.
there's one where you have to shoot well, you get the idea. Yeah, there were games like that, and I don't know. I think they were only exclusive to people that had like a Playboy subscription because like you could get them through that
Mhm.
mag. Um, but not until right around this time was it like really people were starting to raise eyebrows. I'm pretty sure Mortal Kombat was responsible for the bringing about the ESRB.
It was. It was. I remember learning about that at one point, doing some research a long time ago for some other stuff. I think it was for a school class project, but yeah, the ESRB was created specifically because of Mortal Kombat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Crazy that one single game launched an entire like not company, an entire group to be like, this is this is too intense. This is too intense. We have to give it an M.
I um I don't know. I think it is a good thing. Only because I think people were starting to realize that the more and more games were being developed and the more the audience for those games is being expanded, people were
Mhm.
starting to realize that like some games are becoming too violent or sexual for kids, which I can
That's
totally
fair.
undersee that angle. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I mean, I wouldn't want like my 8-year-old to play GTA.
Yeah, or like Manhunt, which is a it's one of the very few still out there adults only games. I mean, they modified it to make it rated M for mature so they could actually release it to the world, but that
Mm,
game is super fucked up. Do you know about Manhunt?
I kind of do. It was I remember reading about it where like it was linked to a UK 14-year-old murder, right?
Mhm. Yep. You play as basically from my understanding, because I've never played it myself, but you played as basically a serial killer in a sense.
Yeah.
There were a whole bunch of gruesome murders that you could do, like gruesome kills and shit. Like it was to the point it was so extreme they had to give it the adults only rating.
Okay. Yeah. That's actually a part of this I wanted to talk about. I think a big part of whenever this started to come out, people were using video games as a scapegoat for like really malicious or bad behavior in people. So the big example I think of is um Cody, you can cut this out if this isn't appropriate to talk about, but when Columbine happened, Doom became like a
Oh,
big public narrative of like shooters. Like people were saying like, "Oh my gosh, games like Doom are causing people to think this way and to act on their bad behaviors and make them super violent."
I didn't even think about that. I didn't realize that Doom got attributed to all that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it
I mean,
was
I was
go
to
ahead,
say I
Cody.
guess it kind of made sense, but also at the same time not.
Well, yeah,
Like
I don't know. I mean, the media's angle on it was kind of like, did violent games train or inspire people to kill? And
Yeah,
obviously not. They had those, you know. I mean, that's
they
like
had
a
those
an
tendencies
incredible deep
beforehand.
dive. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, you always
So
have to
I
kinda go back because like, a lot of these kids that had those kinda tendencies were also the same kids that, like, would kill their pets or, like, would,
Mhm.
you know, throw rocks at random animals, and, like, there's always some sort of inkling beforehand. It's not necessarily the game's fault.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's not just with violence either. I think of examples like Counter-Strike and whenever
Mhm,
loot boxes started to become a big thing in games, because people were
mhm.
starting to attribute that into are is this becoming like a gambling product instead of a game reward? Because rightfully so, people would pull something rare and then they could sell it on an online marketplace.
Mhm.
But people would spend like thousands upon thousands of dollars in order to try to get those. You know what I mean?
Right. Which I'm really glad that I will say personally, I'm really glad that they kind of struck down that stuff and they basically were like, "Yeah, this is a, um, this is a thing that should not be." And so now
Mhm.
loot boxes are a lot more you know the the stakes, or you know the percentage now. There's no, like, actual buying in for the stuff anymore. Like, for the longest time, Overwatch had where you could purchase loot boxes just straight up, and now it's you have to earn them in game from what I vaguely remember. I don't think you could purchase them anymore.
No, I don't well, I don't know about, CS:GO. Can you still do
You
that?
might still be able to in CS:GO, but I know that when they actually cracked down on it, they were like, "Look, this is basically just gambling, and, like, this is illegal for kids to be doing."
Yeah. Didn't it happen first in, one of the Battlefront games?
I think so. I wanna say it was one
Yeah.
of the Battlefront games. I know they had it in, uh, one of the Battlefront games. I know they had it in CS:GO, they have it in Overwatch. I want to say it might have been part of Team Fortress at one point too, but
Maybe.
don't quote me on that. Either way, loot boxes are stupid.
Yeah. 100%. Um, but yeah, those are some, like I think the loot box one is a little bit more of a recent example. I mean, you know, there are games with in-app purchases that kind of
Or even
pay to win. That concept of
mhm,
pay to win is just kinda
or
I
even
don't know.
gotcha games.
Yeah, exactly. I don't
Gotcha
know.
games are a real big proponent of that, of like spending money for spins to try and get a certain character or like a
Yeah.
certain weapon. Um, yeah, crazy. Another like going back to the whole like starting to realize that games might not be for kids, not necessarily on the violence side, but more on the I guess the sexual, the that kind of side of things. Games like Leisure Suit Larry,
Mhm.
those were very big at the time, as well. They started off as like a I mean, they're still a point and click game to an extent, but like they started off as a point and click game of like this dude who, you know, very inept at getting girls. um and progressed very far to the point where like it almost became just downright video game porn,
Mhm.
and they had to
Yeah.
like hardcore crackdown on that, and it was years before they released another one, and they had to really tone back their whole deal on it.
Do you think, do you think that is slipping into games more and more even if they aren't adult content?
How do you mean, like the whole sexuality tones?
Yeah, because like, this isn't a recent example, but, I'm playing Banjo-Tooie with a friend right now because he's never played it,
Hmm.
and, there's a lot of, like, innuendo and, like, jiggle physics for no reason. And I'm like, okay, where did this come from?
Missile physics. I mean, those are those have been around a lot. Yeah. I mean, you could technically see those earlier than that. They're very hard to catch. I think towards the early
Mhm.
2000s, they were starting to kind of push it more. They were kind of being a lot edgier and stuff. Like, not even in just the sense of like, I've talked about it before, where games got darker and grittier, edgy, but like, the edgy, like, ooh, we're making sex puns. Like,
Yeah.
you had the Jack and Daxter games. Their entire like series is dedicated to like those kind of jokes. Like there was Up Your Arsenal. Um there was hold on. Let me actually pull up the list of these because I don't know if you ever played the Jack and Daxter games.
No, never.
So Jack and Daxter uh titles. Oh no, it wasn't Jack and Daxter. Sorry. Hold on. I got it wrong. Uh Up Your Ratchet and Clank, that's what it was.
Oh, no.
So Ratchet and Clank were a game series that were made by uh let's see, Insomniac, the people that made the Spider-Man game and are making the current Wolverine game. And
Mhm.
this was like back in the early 2000s ish, around the PlayStation 2
Okay.
era. So their titles are as follows. You had the original Ratchet and Clank. You had let's see, Going Commando. You had Up Your Arsenal. Then you had Deadlocked, which was, just a normal ass name. You had Tools of Destruction, um, Quest for Booty,
Okay.
uh, Ratchet and Clank Future, A Crack in Time, and then there was also one called Full Frontal Assault.
Okay.
There's they've had like a solid 20 or some odd games that have come out, but um like, the names alone were just kind of a hint, a poke at that. You also had games that the jiggle physics, as you said with Banjo-Tooie, were just highly prevalent, period. Like the Dead or Alive games, which are supposed to be a fighting series, similar to like Mortal Kombat or like Street Fighter, except
Mhm.
there's just these extremely, I don't know how else to put it. There's extremely busty women in almost every single game, and to the point where I think it was 5. I think it was Dead or Alive 5 had an actual slider in the options menu where you could increase the jiggle physics to insane amounts.
What?
Yeah, it
That's
actually
crazy.
had a slider where you could control because they already had the standard jiggle, but you could actually crank it all the way to the max, and any hit was just causing
Ugh.
ungodly amounts of gravity to hit. Like, I don't know how else
Yeah.
to tell you. I don't know how else to tell the developers, but when someone gets punched and they have, an upper chest,
Yeah.
they don't spin around in circles like they're on a merry-go-round.
Well, I mean, I do
Like,
that.
I mean, you do that, I do that, but that's just because I got, I'm working on
You and me
it.
both, buddy. You and me both.
Um, no, I think it's always been there. I just think, as the years went on, they became a lot more noticeable. I think
Yeah.
even the first one had some references that were slight innuendos.
The first what?
The first Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, yeah. I think there was some, like, things that were said in the first game, but nothing was, like, as blatant as in the second game. I mean, there's just, like,
Yeah,
they went off the handle with it. It's just
it is
goofy.
kind of, yeah, it's very goofy. Uh
Uh,
Man,
Koda. what about games that kind of make you lose sense of reality a little bit?
Now, explain what you mean by that. Are we talking like games that you get lost in, or are we talking about games that like kind of like how do you mean?
So now that you asked that, I think this could be interpreted two different ways. I was thinking
Hmm.
of it more as like when Pokemon Go came out, I know there
Hmm.
was controversy about not having like the emotional intelligence to not go to a space even if there were a Pokemon or a Pokestop there. Uh because people,
Oh,
you know how people go crazy for
yeah.
their Charizard, but
Oh, yeah.
I
People
remember
would just
people
be
were
randomly going.
I remember people were like one of the biggest controversies about this game when it came out where people were swarming the Holocaust Museum or like 9/11 memorials and it was to
Mhm,
catch Pokemon. You know what I mean?
mhm. People would
And
go
that
onto private properties, and they would do all that stuff,
yeah, the
like, not even
trespassing,
caring. Mhm.
that's insane, you know? That was I think this is an example where it's not about violence or sex. It's like how this is how games are interacting with real world places and how people are just not being conscious of the actual gravity of what they're there for.
No, that's actually a really good point. I didn't even think about that. That's, yeah, like, games like that, that's the only one I could think of, but I know that there have been other ones, but it's, like, games where, like, you lose focus on reality itself of, like, "Oh, this is a dangerous space, I should not be here," and you're hardcore focused on, "I'm almost close enough to spin this Pokestop.
Yeah.
I can like, I'm very close here to the, the gym. I'm just gonna sit here in the middle of this grassy area with a no trespassing passing sign next to me and just play it."
Yeah.
Like, not even thinking about the real world repercussions, just kind of, like, in their own little zone. I
Yeah.
remember so back home in Missouri, there's a place right next to where I worked. So where I worked was considered a Pokestop. So we had a lot of people that would swarm our parking lot at times for the Pokestop. But right next door to us, a place had been closed down for a while, and you would never have known because of the amount of cars that were there because it was a gym. Like the place had been closed down for a while because there was an accident that ended up happening. Uh it was this place called Ride the Ducks. For any
Okay.
of you Missouri listeners, Ride the Ducks you might know, especially if you're from the Branson area where I grew up. Um, but Ride the Ducks is basically they took these um they were military uh aquatic vehicles. So like they could drive on the road but also go into the water. And they did these tours around town where you could, ride in, you would get these little quackers that you could blow in, take photos of town, and then they would take you out onto the lake. Well, unfortunately, a couple years back there was an accident that happened where there was a storm, people were supposed to come back, they didn't think it was going to hit because it didn't look like it, and the vehicle capsized, and unfortunately there were a couple of lives lost. And so after
Oh,
that event, yeah, really unfortunate when it did happen, and um a very very sad time at the time when it did. But the Red the Ducks closed its doors completely. They were closed. No more tours or anything. But the parking lot was always full of cars. And I never fully understood until I realized that there was a gym right there. So like people were, despite knowing this was on the news, despite knowing that this place was closed and like you weren't supposed to be on the property anymore, people were flocking to this gym just to play it.
yeah.
Like it's crazy to yeah, I didn't even think about that until you brought it up. It's crazy to think that there are games out there that'll make people totally ignore all Darwinian laws in their brain of like I should not be here and just go, ooh, shiny.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like there's no there's no real reason to go and get them other than to just get the thing. You know what I mean?
Right?
There's no real
As
consequence.
I think his name is it's not Angry Badger, but it's something like that. There's a guy on YouTube that I watch and his video, I'll have to send it to you later when I find it, but it's more pings, more reloads, basically that dopamine hit. That's all they're doing it for is
Yeah.
that dopamine hit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.
That is crazy.
Koda, I have one more thing I want to talk about.
Uh-huh.
How do you feel about journalism in gaming?
I mean, you're always gonna have good ones, you're always gonna have bad ones. Doesn't matter, you know. In the end, there's always gonna people that are gonna look at a game and give it a negative review.
Mhm.
There's always gonna people that favor it. Um, Journalism is very hard to kind of take in for me personally when it comes to video games because you can never be objective about a video game. You're always subjective about it. You're always coming at it with your own personal feelings. And so if you just don't like a type of game and you are required to, you know, report on it, you're always going to give it a negative light. And so a lot of times in the news and stuff, because of over the past years, games getting a negative rap for being violent and all these other things,
Mhm.
anytime a game gets brought up in the news in a big way, it sounds like they're talking down on it or they're talking negatively about it. Um, and
Yeah.
so, like, I just don't really like journalism when it comes to that. I don't like I'll read reviews, but I will only take them with a pinch of salt. You know, when a game has a controversy attached to it, excuse me, um, like I'll read through it, but I also have to go through it through the lens of somebody who's like they're reporting on this and how they feel about it. Like if they a lot of times they'll slam the game for being a certain way. Um, there's one guy who I actually really like. Shout out to Paul Tassi. He uh He is a fantastic journalist when it comes to gaming. Um, and he records a lot of stuff about Destiny 2, which I grew up playing. But he has a lot of love for the video game industry, and so a lot of his pieces will always come from a positive light. He's one of the very few journalists that I actually look towards. He works for Forbes,
Okay.
um, and he always shines this positive light, or at least a realistic light on video games.
Okay.
Um, sorry, I rambled for
No.
a little bit.
No, no, that's good. I bring this up because, have you ever heard of Gamergate?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Okay. Is this
yeah.
appropriate to talk about in this episode or not?
You know, I'm not gonna edit anything out. We're gonna have we're
Okay.
gonna have the jiggle visics, the other one.
Yes.
You know, so go ahead, talk about it.
Yeah, for you listeners at home, in 2014, there was this, a lot of people were accusing this, like, weird relationship between game developers and journalists to kind of, like, boost scores and, like, have an unfair advantage when it came to reviews. Um,
Hmm.
but those very quickly like devolved into this targeted harassment to people, especially towards women in the gaming industry, which just made it even worse, even worse than it needed to be. A lot of people. This kind of like sparked a lot of conversation around the ethics in gaming journalism. A lot of critics argued that all of these claims just became a cover for misogyny or like harassment or backlash on diversity, and it blew up and made people really think about how people are represented in games and in journalism, as a whole,
Hmm.
and it kind of became a turning point on how people talked about the culture of gaming. I think it affected how people review games nowadays. You know,
Oh, very much so. Like, you can't just outright give a game a good score for no reason. You
right?
actually have to like go into all the stuff that made it. Like, it has made people be so much more anal about their things for a good reason.
Hmm.
I will say, like, it was a very bad time in gaming. Of a lot of people were lashing out at female journalists for no other reason besides, like you said, the misogyny,
Yeah.
um, and thinking that girls don't belong in playing video games and yada yada yada. And I'm just really glad that we stepped past it. You know, it still happens, but it's
Yeah.
not as prevalent as it was because of that.
I was trying to buy Tamagotchi Life like a few months ago, and
Hmm.
I went to GameStop, and there was this woman there trying to get a refund, and this guy was just being an absolute doucher to her. So like the
Jeez.
shockwave of it not working was still there.
Yeah, I mean, you're always gonna have assholes. You know,
Yeah,
that's why everyone was born with one.
true.
Um,
When
yeah,
you're right, Koda.
but I will say, for anyone listening, just because you have one doesn't mean you get to be one. Be nice to people.
And wipe it.
Hmm. Wipe it extra good. If
That's right.
you're not bleeding, you're not doing it right. Wait, what?
Okay. uh, well, Koda, that was all of the research that I had for this. Is there anything else you would like to say to our peoples out
Well,
there?
I do want to go over the negative like showings of video games in movies
Yes.
and shows. But before we step away from the topic, and this is one that I'm not gonna cut out, but I probably should, thinking about it. We were talking about how like games making people violent and people doing stuff because of video games in the media.
Hmm.
And do you remember the Slenderman girl?
Oh, yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. So um that was a whole thing that kind of killed off that IP because of it, which is kind of crazy to think about. So a girl ended up murdering. I don't remember. Unfortunately, I don't have all the details in front of me, but she ended up murdering at least one of her friends and claiming that Slenderman like told her to do it, all because of that video game.
Mm,
I think it was the Slenderman the Awakening or something like that.
yeah.
It's just it's that doesn't help the gaming community either when people are actively claiming that a video game character told them to do it, and that also points a negative light towards gaming and culture and in the media.
Yeah.
That
And
was.
sometimes I worry if like because we've mentioned before, it always goes deeper. It's never because of the games.
Hmm.
Um it's the same reason I don't like iPad babies is that I don't like people that blame video games for uh violence or for bad behavior. It's
Right.
like, there's always something there that
It was either taught or learned or something like that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. But to change from that sad thought that crossed my mind, um, let's get into some funnies and let's talk about some of the wild inaccuracies because I have a couple. Um, I had a whole lot, but I was like, no, Cubic probably has a couple of his own, so like let me take a step back. Unfortunately, I probably should have stuck with them because it appears we had two different ideas for this episode.
Well, I do have
Um,
one thought, so go ahead and say yours. I just have like an anecdotal thing.
well, go ahead. Go ahead while I pull it back up because I closed it on accident.
The only like misrepresentation of how games being played is shown that I can remember. You ever watch Grown Ups with Adam Sandler?
Hmm. I have, yes.
Um, at the beginning they're playing this game where you murder a bunch of people on a cruise ship, and it's just
Mhm.
like Granny overboard. And Adam Sandler's like, "What the hell are you playing?" That's it.
I I didn't even think about that one. I could have added that to the list. No, ironically though, I did have the movie Pixels on my list.
Okay.
But I mean, we could just talk about that movie in general being like these kids who played arcade games all their life, aliens come to the planet and they use you know, they show the forms of like what they think that humans would be most accustomed to, which was like Pac-Man, uh, the centipede, the fucking Galaga, like
Yeah.
the fucking the biggest inaccuracy from it was that like there's the scene where they're all driving the Mini Coopers that are all colored like the ghosts
Yeah.
and talking about how like, you know, Pac-Man it's always a set pattern like so I know we can trap, you know, Pac-Man or whatever. The inaccuracy there is that Clyde, one of the ghosts, has a random pathing. He will always, depending on how close he is to the Pac-Man or to the player, he will change up what direction he goes. So it's impossible for there to be a set movement pattern. But that's just being very pedantic about it. Um, but some of the funnier ones that I have here are we had. We'll start with the smaller ones and work our way up. We had Rumble in the Bronx, which was a 2015 movie with Jackie Chan.
Okay.
There is a scene in there where Jackie Chan's character is interacting with a kid uh, who's very like focused on his video game. Now he's playing a Game Gear, right? He's playing a little
Okay.
Sega Game Gear, but you can see that there's no cartridge inside it. So this kid's just very intently staring at a black screen, and you can hear generic Atari 8-bit like audio track being played over it. So like horribly inaccurate there of like just if you're gonna show one, at least, you know, put in the effort to put sounds that would have been on the game. Using Atari on a Sega just feels kind of a injustice.
Yeah. I'm as you're describing it, I'm looking up the scene right now, and there's someone that's putting text over it, being like, "Oh yeah, look at that no cartridge. Look at
Yeah, exactly.
that." He just pulls it out of his pocket like it's a smartphone. Game Gears are
Right.
like
But
huge.
Game Gears are massive. These things are like the battery pack alone would have been about the size of a almost a Nokia phone at the time. Like they
Yeah.
were not small. And so this kid just whipping it out of his fucking pocket is first off insane. I had a whole on bag like with a shoulder strap for mine. Like I intensely remember having a full on zip bag with the shoulder strap. It had all the games in there and it held the console in it. But it was like lugging around like a actual a a power supply for a PC at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Like
totally.
the modern day of just pulling your PSU out of your fucking computer and carrying it around in a little satchel. Uh, um, the next one I have is from Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. There is a scene where there are two kids shown just button mashing while playing a game together. Although the game that is being shown on screen is Final Fantasy VIII, which is a very well known, strictly single player, turn based game that would have no need for you to be button mashing. And secondly, they're not even playing it with the right controllers. They're playing it with PS1 controllers that are not even plugged in.
That's horrible. That's like You know, people get hired for like attention to detail in movies,
Mm-hmm.
and that was not one of them where they had that.
Speaking of,
Okay.
so speaking of that, about somebody who didn't like wasn't properly trained on what they're doing or attention to detail or just not giving a fuck. Um, we're gonna talk. The last one I have is 40-Year-Old Virgin. Um, now the reason why I bring up about people not knowing what they're doing or like not paying attention to detail is there's a scene in that movie. This is a little anecdote. There's a scene in there where they hired a lady who claimed to be a professional waxer. And she had no professional training at all. She was an actress and was just faking it to make it. And the scene where she rips the hair off of Steve Carell's chest,
Yeah.
um, like she A pulls the paper the wrong way, and they had to actually physically edit it in the movie because she had yanked so hard she caused his nipple to bleed. Like she was at risk of tearing his nipple off.
Oh
Um,
God.
right. So like talk about not actually paying attention to detail or like not doing a thorough check. Um, but on top of that, the video game inaccuracy in that game, insane to me. This is the funniest one that I have, at least in my opinion. So there's a scene where Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd are playing a fighting game and talking about relationships.
Yeah.
And you could see that the game on screen is Mortal Kombat Deception,
Uh-huh.
which only released on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. Um, but the characters are both holding Nintendo 64 controllers,
Yeah, I'm watching this
as
scene right now.
as well as um, they're also like while they're button mashing, it's a cutscene that's happening on screen where the characters are standing still and just having a conversation. So, like, how are you physically playing a video game, button mashing on the wrong controller? And also the characters aren't even moving. They're just sitting there talking to each other. Like, it's genuinely, I think, the worst interpretation of a video game in a movie. Like, at the very least, you could have given them any controller that would have been accurate, like an Xbox controller. You wouldn't have even had to have plugged it in. That would have given you bonus points, you know,
Yeah. Well,
or like,
so I'm watching the scene back. Paul Rudd has like a freaking like single handle controller, and then Seth Rogen
mm-hmm,
has a N64 controller. This looks horrendous.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's also another movie which the name escapes me at this point because I didn't write it down, but there's one where this dude is playing a video game and he's holding the controller completely backwards. Like
Uh-huh.
he's really grabbing with the thumbs on the triggers as he's holding this controller, like pointing towards him as he's playing a game. In Netflix's House of Cards, there's a scene where one of the characters is playing the Stanley Parable with a PlayStation 3 controller, but at the time it was PC only, and also uh there was no way to configure a PlayStation controller to the game. Um just wild inaccuracies. And House of Cards isn't even that old. Like it's at least a decade old now, but a decade ago you're telling me they couldn't have at least been like, "Oh, this is a PC only game. Maybe we shouldn't show him playing with a controller."
Maybe it was specially modded for the movie.
Maybe, who knows? Um One last one that I want to talk about, going back to like not necessarily proper um or accurate portrayals. I believe the show is called, or the movie is called Severance.
Okay.
Um which is it's a cool looking movie. where they work in an office space. Um, but I believe the whole thing is like every time you leave there, your memory gets wiped. The only memory you have is being at work. Um,
Okay.
cool movie. Um, and the actual people who directed and created it were inspired by Stanley Parable. So there's actual like scenes where you can see them doing work on the computers and stuff, and it's based off of some of the puzzles from the Stanley Parable, those very boring puzzles that it had in it. But the whole vibe of it is supposed to give off that game kind of vibes.
Okay.
The director like physically used that game as inspiration for it. So I think it's really cool to have that kind of like translation into media.
Yeah, that is cool. Even if it's not entirely accurate, you know?
No, yeah, right. I mean, if you want to talk not entirely accurate, we could also talk about Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Ugh. Well, I mean, that one's like, yeah, that one, I think that one's an example of like someone made a graphic novel that liked video games, so they
Hmm.
like stuck vague video game references into it. So I don't know.
uh,
That one's an odd one.
but no, I mean this is a fun episode, even though I came totally unprepared for what you were prepared for.
Well, I came totally unprepared for what you were prepared for.
maybe we should maybe we should sit down and talk a little bit more before we pick a topic next time and be like, okay, what do we mean when we mean this?
Hey, honestly, we filled the hour, so I think we did a great job.
I think we did a really good job. I'm actually really proud of this one. Um,
Good.
I was just gonna say, like, despite us not being able to like be on the same wavelength of it, I think it really did turn out well. Of like having a lot of um, various different types of media um, portrayals,
Yes.
despite them being very different versions of what we mean by media portrayals.
Yeah, I think media is such an umbrella term that it could honestly mean anything in this digital interface.
It really could. Um, no, yeah, that was this has been a fun one, guys. Do you
Yeah.
want to do the outro? Do you want me to do the outro?
Uh, Friends and neighbors, thank you so much for watching. Koda, tell them where we can find us.
So, one of these days, we'll figure out how you can actually remember this stuff. Not that you can't remember it, but it's just like, you know, it's a lot to kind of remember all at once.
Yeah.
But you can find us on Spotify and YouTube at the Scuffed AF Pod. You can also find me and Cubic on Blue Sky, although I rarely ever use my Blue Skies. So just if you see me out and about, or if you find me on Twitch, or if you find me anywhere, just say hi. You're from the show. I'll appreciate it. But you can find us on Blue Sky at the Cubic Guru and Retro Coda with the 0 for the retro. Um, you can also find us on Twitch under the same names, the Cubic Guru and Retro Coda. And yeah, we always appreciate you listening, and we'll see you for the next one. Okay, bye.
Bye.